So, a brief introduction about the guest. He's a champion of well-being. Dr. Marcus has volunteered for COVID duty in Mumbai. He is taken athlete and long-distance marathon runner, also holding a Guinness record for backwards running. He has worked with fighter pilots in the Royal Air Force with astronauts. NASA. Dr. Ranney has been a World Economic Forum's global shaper and more recently appointed as a senior fellow to the Atlantic Council. So we are glad to have him on our show. I think viewers are joining. Delia, welcome. Mr. Imperfect, welcome. Just waiting for the guest to join. DJ Music, welcome to WTF Talks special episode. I hope I'm audible. Welcome. Okay. Just waiting for the guest to join. He'll be joining us shortly. Here. Hello. Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Some funky vibes playing in behind you.
Yeah, just going with the ambience. Okay, we have a viewers joining. So I've already introduced yourself to the viewers.
All right.
Great. We have with us Dr. Marcus Ranney. He's a champion of well-being, World Economic Forum's global shaper, senior fellow, Athletic Council volunteer COVID-19 duty, Mumbai. Athlete, long-distance marathon runner, Guinness World Record holder for backward running, worked with fighter pilots at Royal Air Force and astronauts at NASA. And also he has got his book recently. So,
At the Human Edge.
Yes,
I see some people saying hello. Hello, Luke, my little cousin signing in from England.
We are very glad to have you on our show. Warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing really great. I was just curious, this pronunciation, Dr. Marcus Ranney, where's the surname from and how do you actually pronounce it?
Okay, my surname is pronounced Ranney, and it is a Sindhi surname, but it got changed when my great-grandfather moved to India from Karachi just before the partition. And so it sounds a little bit more local. In Maharashtrian, there is a local sounding surname called Ranney, so it's also spelled differently as well. So there's a long story behind that.
Okay, great. No, there might be a lot of confusions in the viewers as well. When I posted the poster, there might be some confusions, as to how it is pronounced. So I just want to clear the thought of the viewers. That's
right.
It. Okay, great. Before going further, just want to know from you, when I went to your profile, I came to know that you pursued your medical from Bachelor's of Science, Medical University College in London. So if you could brief out yourself to the viewers on your career and how was it back then? So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a very fortunate individual. I've had a career which coming up to almost 20 years now. It's sort of zigzagged and it has allowed me to do lots of different things. I've been able to wear many different hats. At the heart of everything I do, I am a fundamental science geek. Biology, principally physiology, is my first love. And it's been that journey that's allowed me to do all these very interesting things over the last 15, 20 years. I began my career actually, in London, studying at University College. Prior to getting my medical degree, I got a degree in physiology. And at that point in time, I was also a volunteer reserve in the Royal Air Force. So I got to do a bunch of very interesting trips and expeditions, ultimately trying to understand how this body could be pushed to do more and more things, whether it was fighter pilots, or working with astronauts whilst at NASA. I led some expeditions to Everest and the Arctic Circle and things like this. And then after medicine, and I practiced in London, I moved to India in 2011. And for the last 10 years now, I got involved doing a bunch of different things in the healthcare and the life sciences space, but more at the business end. So my journey really has been sick care to well-being. That's sort of the headline journey across. And obviously the role of technology has been fundamental through this. And I hope, therefore, that it's that journey which comes alive, which I'm sure we're going to deep dive into this later on. But that's the journey that I've tried to bring to the reader in this book as well.
Okay, great. As I mentioned earlier, champion of well-being says it all, that how you have been leading the role in awareness, might be promoting health styles and positive mental health. Any experiences that you would like to share, with our viewers?
I mean, lots of different things. We've gone through one of the strangest years of our lives. In fact, it's probably been one of the hardest years that our species have had collectively. The World Economic Forum calls this the greatest psychological experiment ever conducted, because at one point in time, almost 2/3 of human beings were living under lockdown. And so many of us, and I'm sure a lot of your viewers as well, they've had to see the manifestations in that on their physical health, on their mental health and their well-being as well, both in terms of how this has impacted them in their professional lives, but also what it's done in their personal lives. So I've been very fortunate, given the history and the capability, the skill set that I had, to get involved with a whole bunch of different things around COVID-19, right from being a frontline medical volunteer as a doctor in Mumbai. Of course, my corporate work, which is very focused on working with corporations around Asia and trying to improve the mental health and well-being of their employees. So there's been a whole series of different things that happened to me in 2020 on this theme.
As you said, you were in the front line, being volunteering. So how hard was it to cope up with the pandemic? That too, volunteering is something very difficult at those times. So how hard was it for you to cope up?
Look, I'm just really grateful that I was in a position that I had a skill set that could be so readily deployed. And it was something that was sort of the need of the hour at that point in time. I had been out of clinical medicine for well over a decade, and my wife and I had a conversation to say that, look, if things had gotten so bad that they would require someone who has been in a sabbatical for 10 years to come and help out, then obviously things needed to be done to help. And that's precisely the framework, the sort of mentality that we approach this. A few weeks later, after putting my name on a list for volunteering, I got a phone call asking if I was still interested in stepping forward. And of course I was. It was difficult to manage because this was very early on into the pandemic. This was in April. Yeah. And at that point in time, there was still a significant amount of stigma which was attached to, being exposed to the virus and things. So, we had to manage those aspects as well. But I was very grateful. It was 3.5 months. I got to do many, many different camps working as a surveillance officer in the city that I live in, which is Mumbai on the west coast in India, and spent a lot of time trying to identify individuals who were suspected cases for COVID. This is before formalized testing was readily available. So we were really reliant upon old-fashioned clinical history and sort of observation in terms of clinical risk scores as well. So I did that for about 3.5 months. And then unfortunately, I started to develop symptoms and had COVID myself. So that's when I took a step back from that.
Okay, yeah, that might have been a great time, to recover from COVID. Initial days, no one had idea like how has to deal with it. So it might have been a hard time for you. Good that we see you recovered here. Okay, moving on. I'm sure a lot of audience are into marathon runners and endurance athletes. You have been running for many years. completing full marathons and have Guinness record for running backwards. How did this journey start?
If only I got a penny for every time I was asked that question. Look, this is one of the quirky things in life. I was one day just scrolling through social media like so many people do, and this pop appeared saying, are you interested in gaining a Guinness record in running? And of course, this seemed like a really interesting thing. So I convinced Raina, my wife, that yes, why don't we do this? And one morning, 5 a.m., I woke her up, dragged her along. For people familiar with Mumbai, this was happening in Powai, which is, quite far out from where we live. So we drove up, and it turns out that the record was being set for the largest group of individuals to race one another running backwards. And so this was a distance of around 750 meters odd that the Guinness record folks had put down, and it was previously set by Munich, the city in Germany. So we were around 12 or 1400 people, and we attempted this the first time. It was a big mess. It didn't work out. And then, so as per the Guinness regulations, we had to complete it twice successfully in 30 minutes. And look, running forwards is actually a very easy task, right? Running backwards is very hard, particularly on the calves, and we had to do it in a coordinated manner. But jokes aside, of course we did it, and it was fantastic. The thing that I'm most proud of is that our firstborn son, Aiden, who was around about a year old, maybe 14 months, we had taken him as well with us. And on the first attempt, I was actually not pushing, I was pulling his pram backwards as we were doing this. So Aiden also officially has a Guinness record to his name, albeit, he was too small to even do it. He was in a pram, but nonetheless, he has a Guinness record to his name as well. So it was a nice little family moment. And my father-in-law was there as well. So it was great fun.
Yeah, that's really great. Nowadays, running forward is become difficult, but running backward, it's really a great achievement. When I saw, because I never came across this, running backwards, but when I saw it, I was like, I want to meet this person, in person. So it was a great thing. Yeah, I've known that you have also worked with fighter pilots at Royal Air Force and astronauts at NASA. This might have been a great attainment for you. What's your comment on this?
Look, the premise of everything that I've tried to do in my career is how can we optimize this machine, this biological machine that we have. And so I became very fascinated at a very early stage in terms of how we can unlock the secrets that exist both in our body but also in our brain. And whilst I was doing the physiology degree that I was mentioning to you at the start of the program, one of the lecturers that I had, who was a senior doctor at that time, he's now a professor in London, his name is Dr. Kevin Fong, he was running this program course, and one of the modules he was teaching was on space medicine, which is what happens to your body in the microgravitational environment of low Earth orbit and beyond. And so I immediately signed up for this to learn more about it. And at that point, I was also, in the Air Force as a volunteer reserve. So I got to really, therefore, get stuck into this subject matter. My thesis, my dissertation that I did for my degree was really looking at what happens to the heart, this muscular pump that we have beating inside our chests. What happens to it in microgravity and the cardiovascular system? How does it decondition itself? And then, of course, spent a lot of time working around different Air Force bases in the UK, really getting to test fighter pilots and other types of elite performance pilots before and after they were doing these interesting flights. So it was a fascinating area to work on for those few years.
Yeah, it might have been a great experience for you as well. As I can say, you have been into as I was reading, I came to know that you have also been into this economics. So at present, we are into economic glitch. What are your views and suggestions to us? As you're the World Economic Forum's global shaper. So what's your advice or suggestions before we move on to the topic for today? This might be my last question to you, like your suggestions and your what I mean, you have been into it. So what might be happening in the near future?
Well, that's actually an easy one. I mean, I'm not an economist, so my work at the World Economic Forum is very much focused on two subjects. One is our health, and secondly is the climate crisis, and particularly the research, the academic research I'm doing now with the Atlantic Council, as well is looking at how the climate crisis is really a public health emergency, and COVID-19 is a prime example of that. So, you know, I won't pretend to weigh in on economic matters. It's mainly focused on public health that my work and academic work is focused around. Yeah.
Okay. Coming to the book, the At the Human Edge. So the book
I have a copy here for everyone. Hello. Yeah.
Okay. So the book captures a lot of your experiences. I just went through a few summary part, experience adventures, and frames it in a way which we can, dive into right away. Tell us about the book. What is it about, and why you chose to write about this?
Yeah. Look, I hope to inspire people in the same way that I was inspired at a young age to fall in love with the human body and this machine that we have, right? This idea for writing came to me many, many years ago. In fact, this book has been 6 years in the works. And this idea came many years ago when I was chatting. We were recently married, and my wife and I were talking about this, and I said to her, how cool would it be for my kids at some point in the future? We weren't even pregnant at the time, but how cool would it be for my children to be inspired in the same way that I am to love science by the words of their father? And so I started making some notes down and pulled some of my journal stuff together. And slowly that started to build and build and build, and ultimately it came out into this production. The whole idea of the book is really to take the reader on a journey into their inside, into their human body by exploring the outside world. And so I've divided the book into 6 main chapters. Each of the chapters focuses on a different extreme environment. So there's a chapter on climbing Mount Everest. There's a chapter on running a marathon, on sending a man or woman to Mars, on diving to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, going to the South Pole, and then on surviving in the Sahara. And so the vehicle of the book has been written in a way that I take the reader and put her in and imagine that individual is then summiting Mount Everest, or trekking across the Antarctic plateau towards the South Pole. What do they see as they take that journey there in terms of the changing geography, the physical landscape, and then journey within what's happening inside of your biology in terms of your physiology and the changes that you will be going through, the challenges that you are going to be forced to face, and how your body is continuously adapting and excelling through that period of time. So the book is structured around physiology, but there's a lot of geography, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of legacy, and then I've brought a lot of different stories in, famous expeditions done by Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, or by Robert Scott and Amundsen, etc. So all of their stories, my own stories from the field as well. So bringing in all of that research and stories, etc., to hopefully make what I think is an interesting piece of work for people to read. You initially said there are 6 chapters. Is there any chapter which is your favorite? And if you can speak about it a little bit. My favorite chapter has to be chapter 1. It's how I started the book as well. It's the chapter on climbing Everest. And for me, this is such an important chapter because it was really an important chapter in my life. I was very fortunate to lead an expedition to Everest Base Camp in 2007. At the time, it was the largest ever expedition to Base Camp led by a student. We were around 100 student doctors that went from University College in London, and including our support staff. And everyone And I got to spend around a month on the mountain. It was an expedition 2 years in the making. We had 3 tons of equipment. We conducted 17 different experiments on ourselves, including how the heart changes function. We did blood tests. We were checking respiratory function and lung function. We were examining and measuring people's moods and psychological state. We were taking saliva samples to measure our immune response. So all these different experiments were taking place on ourselves. And that was a hugely defining moment in my life, because it was the first time I was exposed to leadership at such a scale in such an extreme environment, that it just shaped the rest of my career from there.
Have locked away for so long.
And then at the organization and at the body, how can we improve our physical performance, how can we improve our mental capabilities, etc. That's everything that I've tried to capture in the book. And then, of course, the fact that we've been living in lockdown for so many months, and so many of us are missing the great outdoors, we're missing going on those large, long trips, etc. So hopefully, by reading about this book, I can take you, the reader, on a journey in your mind to some of the most incredible physical environments here on Earth and beyond. Of course, we take a trip to the moon and to Mars as well, and actually into the outer regions of the solar system, to some of the moons of Saturn. So I hope that by taking you on this big journey, that you get an opportunity to travel in your mind, and then hopefully in the physical realm as well soon.
Great. We have spoken about physiology. What was it knowing so much about your own physiology, like things you cover in the great detail in chapter 3, I think it's covered. And how did you use that advantage in your own running? I feel your life, as you said, you like inspiring people, and based on what you have lived, you have written in the book. So how is it of advantage in your own way?
Well, having the knowledge about one's own physiology is advantageous when one is trying to plan, say, a running schedule or some sort of a training regime to improve oneself. So that has clearly been something that I've tried to employ in great advantage to me. Chapter 3 is on running a marathon, and I'd done many half marathons over the years that I've been a runner. But in 2020, in January, I got the opportunity to run my first ever full marathon, which is one of the most proudest days of my life, because it was definitely pushing my physical endurance to levels that I've not experienced previously. For those of whom are not familiar, a full marathon distance is 42.098 kilometers, or 26.12 miles. It takes an individual 50,000 steps to cover it, one after the other. It took me just over 5.5 hours or something to complete this. And it, as I said, it definitely stretched. Thank you for that comment, Luke. It definitely stretched my physiology and performance to complete this. So to having that internal knowledge to know, this is what my heart's doing now, this is what my lungs are doing now, that's all great for the training. But I'll tell you that when you're running that marathon, all of that goes by the wayside. All you care about is that one message that I'm constantly trying to tell my legs: just keep running. And at some point, I remember at around kilometer 31, 32, my legs just said to my brain, like, screw you, I don't want to be doing this anymore. but one had to keep going and pound away, and eventually I got to that finish line, and it was an incredible cathartic moment, physiologically and psychologically as well.
Great. There might be many things you have learned, while writing the book. As you said that you started 6 years back. So anything you experienced you would like to share, while writing the book with the viewers?
Perseverance. Look, writing is a very difficult journey. I'd actually completed about 80% of writing in the first 3 to 4 months. And then it was after that the real journey began. Finding an agent, finding a publisher, going through the editorial changes that are required. I must have had at least 30 to 35 rejections from publishers. And that's pretty disheartening, by the way, because, you put your heart on the sleeve, you write about something that you're so passionate about, and it's a labor of love, and then you put it out there, and then people sort of give their critical analysis and kept coming back in rejections. But I persevered. I kept changing the structure. I made a lot of edits to open up the language so that it was not a scientific or academic piece of work. It's a popular piece of, it's a popular science book that anyone can pick up. There are areas of it which are technical for those of whom are interested in it, but the rest of it is very accessible. So that's been my greatest journey with regard to perseverance, and now the serendipity and the understanding that the universe always has a plan for us. Had I published this book 6 years ago, I was in a very different space mentally, professionally, and with regard to the achievements that I was able to do in my own life, physically and professionally as well. So I'm so happy that this has come now, because it's just aligned with a whole bunch of other things that I'm involved in professionally as well.
Well, so we are convinced and are ordering our books today. Where can we find it, and how did this dovetail into your border work?
So this book, So At the Human Edge is available online. So it's available in India right now. I know we've got a few people signing in from overseas. It's available in India right now. You can get it on Amazon India. You can get it on Snapdeal, Flipkart. Also, there's the website at thehumanedge.com. So it's available online and bookstores and airports now as well. For all of our folks signing in from overseas, it's going to be available globally on March the 1st. And that will be available on the Amazon store and on my publisher, World Scientific Press. Luke just asked a question about Audible. As I know he's asked me previously, yes, I am working on other formats for this publication. And it'll definitely be coming out in 2021 in different varieties, audio and visual, hopefully as well. So watch this space. But for all of those who can't wait for those, then please get your copy of the book available online. Yeah.
What might be the costing of the book, like, if you can?
Yeah, in India, it's available for $5.95.
Okay, great. Before concluding, you have had a busy last year serving on the front lines and leading the charge of advocating on important topics like mental well-being and the climate crisis. What are your plans for the year ahead, and most excited for 2021?
Well, I'm just continuing to do the work that I've set myself out. So my framework of well-being resides around promoting the well-being of the individual, and I've got a new venture called Roots.life. People can check it out online, Roots.life. That's to promote individual well-being. Of course, the work that I do at the corporate level, working with my organizational partners around Asia, that is coming through the Human Edge platform, where we continue to deliver interventions and workshops focused on promoting business success. And then finally, the academic work that you and I spoke about through the Atlantic Council and the World Economic Forum, which is really exploring the deep interconnectedness between the climate crisis and public health. And I've just got a new online web series which started last week on the Quint that people can check out online. And there'll be some more content that I'll be producing in this over the next 3 to 6 months as well.
Great. Any message to our viewers? We are from the coastal side. This comes coastal part of Karnataka. So most of the viewers might be watching you from the coast. It's a glad moment for me and my team to have you to host you as a guest for today's talk. So it was good talking to you. Learned a lot of things from you, and hope hope you achieve more and you write more books and always inspire us. So before concluding, any message to our viewers and your viewers as well, what you would like to say?
I wish everyone well, of course, and I firstly wanted to thank you for having me on What the Fish, and doing this Instagram live, and for all your viewers, of course, people signing in. Thank you so much. Look, just continue doing the work that we're all doing in 2021. It's a year full of hope, full of optimism, full of growth, full of potential, and for each of us to plug in and obtain our human edge. And then promote that sense of well-being to people around us as well. So thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you. Thanks to the viewers as well who have been watching us for the past 30 minutes. And I think Pramod Madhavaraj sir is also joined. Welcome to you, sir. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Marcus. So it was glad to have you on our show. Thank you and wish you all the best. I think that's all from our end. And I wish you all the best in your journey in the future. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. Yes. Bye-bye.
That was Dr. Marcus Ranney from all the way from Mumbai, who has already published his book named At the Human Edge. It was great to host him on our show, WTF Talks. So I wish all the viewers had a great time. So thank you so much for being there for the past half an hour. I wish you grab your books, as Dr. Marcus said, where is it available? So you can grab your books today, and let's support. Let's know what's in the book, as we got a brief information about the book through Marcus. So thank you so much for being there. We have next week Walter Nandalike, Daiji World founder, for joining. He will be live with us on WTF Talks. So do join in, do pig in, and drop in when you're, I think, 8 p.m. Saturday, that is 30th March. So drop in and thank you for your support. The viewers have been supporting so much. It's a great thing. We are motivated and to come with more guests and know their life, know about them. So it's a great opportunity for us. Thank you so much for being there. It's me, Arul, signing off today. See you all on 30th, 8 p.m. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you. Take care. Good night.